as you can probably see, Charlie is on the ramp. With the aid of Uncle Barnyard, I managed to get him on, and he's got his strap on. Because there is no main stand on these, you have to clamp the wheel, which in itself, hand gestures should be enough, but just to make sure we've got the old strapulation on. Now, one thing I need to get to is the boots that hold the carb tinkles onto the cylinder heads, and to do that easily I've got to take the bodywork off. Now fortunately I do believe Uncle Steve just cable tied it on, but there's a couple of bolts I've got to remove first, and then yes, we can get rid of it, because I'd sooner split the bodywork into its individual parts because they're easier to store. I've got the side panels up there, but the other side of the bike I'm sort of leaving clear for all the bits. So that's what I'm cracking on with. They're supposed to put a new gear lever on. That one looks bent. Although Uncle Steve says it did fall over in the back of the van, so it might have done that. Who knows? So yeah, this is where we are at the moment. I'm spotting a lot of fasteners that should not be on this bike, and by should not be I mean they're not the original Honda, not necessarily that they're the incorrect ones. Well, they are, because they're not Honda, but you know, but it's to be expected for the age of it, really. So I'm going to crack on with doing that, and when I've got the bodywork off I shall show you what I've got to do. Oh, and it's my sainted mother's 79th birthday today, and it's very, very strange to watch your parents age, as I'm sure you all know, from being somebody that used to walk faster than you to somebody who, you know, literally drags one foot behind the other. But even the last couple of years I've noticed, you know, getting a bit forgetful, tripping over her own feet a lot. She's slowed right down. I mean, the garden is her thing, it's a big passion. But even like this year she's hardly been on it. You know, she has been on it, but nowhere near as much as she used to. So I don't know, it's just horrible watching somebody age. But there you go, you know, it's inevitable, it happens to us all unless you're James Dean. So there we go, we'll crack on. Hello, yes, hello. Now I've got one of the panels of the sidage off. Ooh, strap on. I can show you what I'm attempting to do, and it's a lot easier without the bodywork on. But before that, just a couple of little observations. We are going to have a good look around this, because like I've just mentioned, there are some fasteners on here that shouldn't be there. But also there is oil or something on top of this exhaust. It could be something as simple as old chain lube, but usually it burns off and bakes on. But one thing I've noticed, I don't know whether the camera will pick this up, but there's your front sprocket in there, and you have a bolt either side to hold it on, and it has a special lock washer which you peen over to stop those bolts backing out. And I don't know whether the camera will see it, but that isn't peened over, and that one at the top is barely peened over. I don't know whether you actually got that, because I can't see what the thing is filming in. I mean, come on, bear. What's that? That could be, what would that be? That's probably the clutch cable there, and that would go into, I think they're going to get that cap off. If I remember rightly, this is where the clutch actuator is. Oh yeah, and that's where you would adjust it. Look, well, there's a bit of grease on it. That's good. Right. Yes, but I think for saying, you fucked that up, didn't you? I mean, for safety's sake, we'll have this cover off, and we'll try and investigate where that oil's coming from, if it is oil. It might be something as simple as like a sump gasket or something like that. Well, I say simple. On something with a V4, taking headers off and stuff like that can be a pain in the arse. You thought the old CB400 was compact. These are even more so. I mean, you do need ratchet knuckles. It's like doing the front spark plugs on these. Look, they're hidden in there, and I got quite good at taking the bodywork off, loosening this radiator, swinging it out the way to get to it, but it looks like we might have a valve gasket cover leak as well, which might be just something as simple as just resealing it. It was something was mentioned about a new oil filter and stuff like that. Well, that's definitely the old one, but there is a new one in one of the boxes, so maybe that's something else they didn't do, or they were never instructed to do it. You know, there's a big difference. So what I'm going to do now is these clamps up here, these are your cylinder to carbitinkle intake rubbers, and over the years they are known to go very dry, very brittle, with no motion in them at all. And what they tend to do is they get micro cracks in them, and you'll get an air leak. There'll be no evident crack, but you will get an air leak, and you'll chase it around the houses for ages. But I do believe Uncle Steve has ordered some new rubbers. Whether they're cheap Chinese ones or they're half decent ones, who knows. Apparently the Chinese ones can be a bitch to get to seal. It's like you have to put mastic round them and all shit like that. I'd sooner avoid that. When we did the spray test with the starchy bastard, the revs didn't go up anymore, so I'm presuming that these actually seal quite well, but we'll see what condition they're in. But I need to get to these top clamps here, there, and the same the other side, and pop the carbitinkles out, because as you can see by the throttle plate now, what you tried to show you the other day, that idler screw is nowhere near this throttle plate, which means to me that that throttle plate is set wrong. I think it's set way too open. Jim, that wasn't even good English. Yes, with this screw back down, almost all sort of like there, that throttle plate should be sitting on it. So basically, whoever set these carbs up, and it'll probably be the Dick Spanner at the bike shop, the butterfly, it's far too much open. Again, that was bad English. But yeah, that's what I'm cracking on with. So I'm going to get the bodywork off to the side. We'll get the top fairing off. That needs a repairage anyway, which I think Uncle Steve is going to sort out. And then we can basically get at stuff, because I'm going to swap out the brake lines and stuff like that for the stainless. So it's all got to come off anyway. I mean, just as a matter of inspectionage, you know, it's all got to come off. The preload adjuster for the suspension, I can't even get that to move. And they do work quite well, but I think while we can get it everything, I shall get my ABBA stand out. Oh, so tempted to sing some ABBA then. And when I've done the ramp work, we'll get it on the ABBA stand, and we'll have all that, we'll have the back linkage out and grease it up and what have you. But yeah, it's not bad for its age. It really isn't bad, and it's sort of, it's got all the signs of being home repaired, lack of moneyage and all that lot, which you totally get. It's not like somebody's not made an effort, because they have. They could have done a better one, you know what I mean? It's like there's a bolt missing there, fair enough. There's an Allen been put in there instead of one of these. There's no point putting blingage on the engine of one of these, because you don't see it, you know. It's just pointless. You just throw in money at a dead weasel, basically. So we shall see. We'll see how we get on. That was a very long section, James. It was, wasn't it? I expect everybody's fallen asleep by now. Yes. Taking the airbox. So goodbye, Uncle Barnyard. So, as I said, I'm taking the top of the airbox off, this section of the filter. This bit can sort of stay on, and it just gives us a bit more wiggle room to get the to get the carb tinkles out, it just gives us a little bit of leeway. And there it is. I did drop an airbox screw, but I found it again. I'm going around the other side now. Yes. It's always very difficult to know what to film. You know, whether it's interesting watching somebody take some screws out, or whether to do a job and then bring people back, if you see what I mean. It's a lot quicker to do the job and bring people back, but I'm not really under any time constraints. You know, that's the top of the airbox. A very common mod on these, and to be honest, it doesn't do a lot. This one's already been modded. See, they've cut the edges of the snorkel. They're solid usually, but what people do is completely remove this snorkel and just have the intake at the front. And see, somebody's drilled some extra holes in the airbox as well. It makes a fantastic induction noise, this bike, even in standard trim. You get above a certain RPMage and you don't hear the exhaust. It's all induction, and it's a brilliant sound. These do sound fantastic with an exhaust on, and you can get them quite readily. Nice. So that's there. Let's move you. So, yes, this is what I was talking about the other day with the airbox and the you could call them velocity stacks, because that's basically what they are. I have seen people with metal ones of these, and they look very, very nice, but that's just given Jim, that's not even English, given us a little bit more wiggle room, because what we're going to do is undo the clamps, and then you need to get, basically, sounds brutal, but you get a crowbar in here and in there, and you just pry the back ones out, just pop them out the back rubbers, and then the front ones literally just pop out. When I had my NC24 before, I went about it all the wrong way. I used to line up all four and then try and push down. I used to put get this down to the metal and put a plank of wood over it and just mallet them down, and they used to go in. But no, the new method that I learnt was basically undo everything, pop the back out and pop the front out. So refitment is the reverse of that. You pop the fronts in, or get them started, and then introduce the backs, and then you're not moving around the intake rubbers too much. Yes. So I'll crack on and bring it back. Yes. You can always do your best thinking with a bacon song. Right, I've popped the carb tinkles. I just put a little bit of raggage there in between the cylinder head and the carb tinkle, just to protect the paint a little bit. And basically you just you know, you go in and you give it the old burp, 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 burp. That's loose now. One thing I have got to do though is I can move them out of the way a little bit, remove the choke cable, and then that's all dunnage. But it's always a good idea keep the aluminium tray on, because it keeps all the carbs together. I've seen people try and take these off without the aluminium tray, and the carbs can move around a little bit, which is a danger, because if they move enough, and it doesn't have to be a lot, some of the shafts can bind up. Shaft. Honestly, Jim, you've got to get sex off the brain. Honestly, do you know, if I had an enormous penis, I'd be unstoppable. So, anyway, yes. So I've loosened the choke cable there, just to see if we can wiggle each out. Come on, you little bugger. Come on, you know you want to. Come on, there we go. And that should be the carbs all free now. Bugger me. So there we go, they can go on the bench and be looked at. But yes. Oh, a little bit squishy, that's good. I think those have probably been renewed. The critical thing when refitting is to make sure the clamps are in an accessible position, because once the carbs are on, you won't be able to move them. Nice. Well, there, the carb tinkles are off, as you can quite clearly see. And I'm just draining the float bowls at the minute to see if we've got any nasties in there. Not that a blocked jet wouldn't cause an over rev, really. If anything, it'll do the opposite because it's not getting fuel. The calipers, the other calipers, they're in the acca jiggler again. They've just done a 15-minute little cook, and I'll do that a few times during the week. But yes, you know, I think they're all drained. Let me just unprofessionally put you to the side, because God help the day I actually get good at editing, and we'll see. Right, there we go. Right, what have we got in here? Do you know what? Couple of times, actually I did have the wintergreen oil in here, and I only gave it a quick dry out, so you can see that there's little white globules knocking around. Shut up. It's plenty of those knocking around upstairs. That's probably the leftover wintergreen oil, but I can't really see any shite, which is brilliant. That means the insides of the carbs are at least clean, but the only fuel I've put in it is from the remote reservoir, which is clean. So who knows, but the next step is to flip this on its bottom, get the float bowls out, and obviously I want to check the position of the butterflies. Right, I've just flipped the bugger on its bottom, and I have already found an problem. I'm going to show you. The choke is off, but that plunger there is nearly all the way out. Look, if I operate the lever, so we've got one choke that's all the way out, two chokes that are all the way out, one choke that isn't even doing anything, and another one that's barely coming out. That could be giving us our high RPMage running, because obviously we're over enriching the circuit, and when we're knocking the choke off, we're not knocking the choke off, so it will rev its tits up on choke. So that's one job. The butterflies, actually, if we have a look, they're not bad. They are actually all closed, so I'm thinking the cold start circuit, as some people want to call it, is set up incorrectly, and the chokes are permanently open. It's no bad thing for an engine to run rich, really. I'd sooner have one run rich than clean, but that explains why, I think. So I think it is just a case, because we know, I'll take one of these bowls off and we'll have a look anyway, but I think it may be just a case of a misadjusted choke, which is schoolboy error, because they're so easy to set. I mean, that lever all the way back there is off, so when that lever's off, it should be allowing this plunger to come all the way back in, but this isn't adjusted correctly. If I can get the old screwdriver in there to loosen this bar off. There you go, that's just gone in. So that was adjusted incorrectly. How it needs to be is the choke needs to be off, and then these they need to be against sort of the end, but not actioning against it. Big words, Jim. So that one was maladjusted. Ooh, big words. This one, you can see the choke is part of the way out, so let's undo this one. I will be so happy if it's that easy. I think it is, because the choke circuit will make it Go, see that choke is sticking, or it was. Yeah, I think I'm going to take the chokes out of all of these and just make sure the passages are super clean, and we'll reset these rods, and I think that's it. The butterflies don't look bad. I will bench sink them, and by bench sinking them, what I do, this is the control carb, wherever the throttle plate is, that's the control carb. So I'll lubricate all the shafts and what you do is put something of a known thickness in the butterfly. So you open the butterfly, stick something in there. It can be anything. It can be a bolt, it can be, you know, a bit of welding wire, whatever, something of a known thickness. Jam it in there, not literally, be careful, just rest the butterfly against it, and then what you do, you adjust all the other butterflies. If it's in equal vacuum system, right, that is critical, and adjust all the other butterflies so they're an interference fit with another bit of wire, and basically that's how you do it. Stuff like GSXs and stuff like that, the outer carbs are synced differently to the inner ones. Right, as I am fairly certain I've found the cause of the high idle issue, these choke shafts, stop saying shaft, you know, they could do with a bit of lubrication and what have you. I've undone all the adjusters to ensure that they've all backed off, but what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to get all the chokes out, as I've said, and do it, but it's kind of made my piss boil a little bit, because yet again the customer was charged a lot of money for these to be cleaned, stripped and set up. Evidently not. The chokes are way out. I mean, if we just look at this one, they, you know, they were like out there. It was ridiculous. I've loosened this so it won't be actioning, but I'm going to get some, I'll probably take these shafts out, give them a proper clean up, a lubrication and what have you, and yeah, we'll see. But yet another job the customer's charged for, and it hasn't been done properly. Now, if a dick spanner like me in his shed, I'm not a trained mechanic, I'm self-taught, although I spent an awful lot of time in bike shops in my lunch times and stuff like that, learning from the mechanic and the owner there, because he used to let me do little jobs. But it's like, it's a lot of money they've charged to not do an effing job, and if it was me, their shop would be on fire in mysterious circumstances. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, so hopefully that is, I'm pretty certain that's the high idle issue, is that the chokes were permanently open. You know, what can you say?